안녕하세요. 스탠리패러블 지금 막 켰는데, 오늘도 뭔가 하라고 하는, 시키는 게 뜨네요. 귀찮긴 한데 한번 해보겠습니다. 개와 고양이가 친구가 될 수 있게 슬라이더를 조정하세요. 이렇게? 우리 친구의 친구. 아이 좋아. 아이 좋아. 아이 귀엽다. 이 정도면 친구죠? 더 가면 친구 아닌 거 아니야? 5가 9가 될 때까지 슬라이드 조정하라고? 오케이. 슬라이드 조정을 중지할 때까지 슬라이드를 조정하세요. 어떻게 하면 중지하는데? 이렇게 된 거야, 이거? 두 단어 중 마음에 드는 단어. 띠용뽀용, 뿌숑빠숑. 둘 다 마음에 드는데? 띠용뽀용, 뿌숑빠숑. 뿌숑빠숑. 뿌숑빠숑은 뭔가 좀 더 화이팅 넘치는 느낌이고, 띠용뽀용은 일상적으로 쓸 수 있는 단어고, 일상적으로 제가 띠용 이런 말 좀 자주 쓰거든요. 어, 띠용뽀용 내가 평소에 좀 더 쓰니까 조정하지 마세요. 알겠다. 몇 시인지 아냐고? 네, 압니다. 네, 정확합니다. 시간이란 뭐죠? 아니요? 아니요? 말하지 않은 거 있지. 시간이란 뭐냐는 질문에 네, 아니오로만 대답할 수 있었잖아요. 내가 도울 수 있다면? 오케이, 오케이. 스탠리패러블.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee.
나도 모르게 클릭을 해버렸어. 여기 뭐야? 뭐지? 문이 있네요. 안 열리네. 뭔가 그림이 있어. 내가 항상 보던 그림. 역시 문은 안 열리고요. 패턴은 뭐지? 427. 뭐야, 열어줘요. 열어줘요. 내 자리인 것 같아요. 야! 안 열리네요.
Psst! Stanley! Come over here!
Stanley!
In the vent! I want to show you something!
나 어떻게 숙여? 들어갔다. 뭔데 이거? 뭐 커피에 미치다? 슝. 아, 떨어진 거야? The end is never end. 뭐야? 마인크래프트 같다. 나 항상 하고 싶었는데.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new ultra deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanleyparable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
뭔데? 오, 성당 같아. 홀리한데? 아주 홀리한 분위기가 나요. 오,
I call it the memory zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanleyparable on PC.
왜 이렇게 파리가 날려요? 뭐 마구간을 개조한 거 아니야 이거? 추억의 공간.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanleyparable was before it was sullied with a cheap
2013년
re-release? Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back
몰라,
then,
나는,
video games had integrity. Back then,
울트라
it all
디럭스를
meant
처음
something.
해봐서요.
Oh, the waste.
관객상? 상도 받았어? 이거 스탠리패러블 상 맞아? 이상한데? 이건 뭐야? 2013년 우리의 첫 키스, 첫 번째 자가용. 2013년에 발매된 스탠리패러블. 오리지널 때도 이랬었나? 근데 이거 1달러짜리 행운을 가져다 준다 그래가지고 막 되게 사람들 집마다 있지 않나? 우리 집에도 있어가지고 우리 엄마가 갖다 놔갖고. 그런 것도 있어? 달성 불가능 도전 과제도 있어? 5년 동안 플레이하지 말라고? 진짜? 영국? 어쩐지 발음이 영국 발음 비슷했어. 근데 진짜로 받은 거예요, 이거? 2014년 3월 12일. 왜 이렇게 똑같은 게, 막 똑같은 거를 막 여러 번 인쇄해놨니? 여기는 뭐 들어가는 곳인가? 바닥이 꺼진 것처럼 보였는데 그렇지 않았네. 이거 뭔가 마구간 같은데.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable
이게
was.
좋은
It was
리뷰야, 나쁜
literally
리뷰야?
every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
날 왜 여기다 가두고 뭐 나가지도 못하게 해. 뭐 열렸네? 아니야, 문 닫히지 마. 나 이따가 저기 밑에 있는 거 저기 한번 가보려고
Here's
그랬는데.
another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
문 안 닫힌 거지?
These were simpler times, Stanley. What I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again.
뭐가 좋았다는 건지 모르겠네.
Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here?
아, 몰라요? 이거 내가 좋아하는 자판기잖아? 아이, 이거 왜 여기다 버려놨어요? 내가 좋아하는 건데, 이거.
Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years.
스팀 리뷰?
I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
반짝반짝 빛나는데 이런 마곡간에 처박아놨어?
Honestly, I
비추천.
could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered
추천은
web
왜
of
이렇게
profound
뭉뚱그려
philosophical
놓고
insights that I can't even
역시
imagine where I
사람은
got the
나쁜 말이 더
stick.
기억에 남아. 그럼 나레이터도 사람인 건가요? 개발자들은 사람이겠죠? 아, 나레이터가 사람이 아닐 리가 없잖아. 그죠? 어디로 가야 더 볼 수 있는 거지? 나 올라가고 싶어. 점프 시켜줘요. 왜 날씨는 왜 이래요? 뭐야 이건? 그러니까 추천은 이렇게 막 이렇게 돼 있고 비추천 또 있다.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I
생각하게
cut from the
만드는
game.
요소는
Did it
초반
feel
몇
as
분
light and
정도래요.
airy as it? Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to.
왜
These black marks
긍정적인
on my
평가는
otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure, like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
뭐 사람이 하는 일이 다 그럴 수 있죠 뭐. 뜻대로만 되겠습니까? 나를 여기다 계속 가둬놓을 거예요? 뭐 어디로 가야 되는 거야 나? 올라가기라도 해줘. 여기 길 있나? 아니 길 없는데? (2016년에) 3시간 했으면은 환불도 못 받고 좀 화날만 하다. 맘에 안 들었으면. 그쵸? 어디로 가는 거야?
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening.
장난치 않은 듯한
I wish there
목소리.
was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment.
여기가
surely
되게
it couldn't
아지랑이처럼.
hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything
야,
for the
역시
customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall
여기
have.
엑스맨 기지구나. 스타크가 만든 그런 거 아니야?
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore
1초라도
you
지겨움을
with
느끼기
just the push of a
시작했다면.
button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have
시간이
delivered. No
지금은
more
좀
listening to me
지난
rambling on and on
시기가
and on.
있네.
No. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people, and if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story, and the choices, or what have you, and therefore, by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably, we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once, so, now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet, no, until 245. But the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime.
이거 이 말하는 거 되게
there is. How many days left until so much more than forever ago?
우리 카톡 보낼 때 폰으로 카톡 보낼 때 되게 그 뭐지? 자동 완성 기능 써가지고 아무렇게나 막 쓰면은 이렇게 말할 수 있을 것 같아요. 그렇지 않아요?
So now you see. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe
근데 확실히 너무 말이 많아갖고 나랑 오디오 겹치는 것 같긴 해.
Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly and you can tell me what you
어떻게
think.
생각하냐고?
Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are or were or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your Greek gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've ever made, in fact, make you more, not this kind of person, and in fact do the very opposite? You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once. That you are both making choices and not making choices. And that they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first, I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap a treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe to it. But wouldn't you say that manifesto just has a much grander sort of tone? It has a mouthfeel that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. See, now you've gotten me going back to manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Okay, look, I have a method for exactly this sort of situation, and I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor. It is an unimpeachable strategy, Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations. All right, here we go.
뭔 소리야?
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise. Well, there's sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place. I guess I should become better educated on exactly how Steam works. Perhaps that would have been the smart thing to check on before I went about this whole exercise of making the skip button. Although I have to imagine that after seeing this exciting new technology at work, surely whoever it is runs Steam will instantly run out and implement a new feature to make it possible to edit one's review.
그럼 스팀에 정식으로 메일을 보내보시겠어요?
Yes, I think that's quite likely. Or perhaps they'll simply grant this particular user the ability to change their review, so that the feature is not widely abused. Look, I would even be okay with Steam altering this particular review so that it reads as something more beneficial, something along the lines of, this game is the best game.
Best
Let me start over. How about this? From the ashes of depravity rises the phoenix of quality. How else to describe the Stanleyparable Ultra Deluxe? Such a revolutionary step forward in the lineage of one of the most beloved video game properties of all time. The additions and changes made to this expansion will surely resonate in the annals of the history of all media ever made. It is perhaps true to say that no mistakes are forever etched in stone for Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45
지났네요.
minutes. It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it and just... Wait, how do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please step away from the skip button, to go anywhere other than the skip button. There was a door here before, wasn't there? I swear there was. Where did it go? Can you maybe just ram your way through a wall? Is there any possibility that you could, say, slam your body into the wall until enough damage is done for you to be able
왜
to leave?
내가 내 몸을
Please,
내
I'll take
바디를
any
슬램해야
option at all.
되는데요?
I'm asking you to work with me here. We need a door. We need a door of some kind. I can work with any kind of door as long as it can
이렇게밖에
open
못해.
and lead from one room to another.
그냥 이건
I'm
벽을
going
긁고
to step
다니는
away for
거라고.
just a moment, and I'm going to try to find us a door. I don't know how exactly to remove a door and place it in a different wall, but I will find a way, I promise. You just need to not do anything. Don't press the skip button. Please, please, please do not press the skip button. Just
아니야.
wait here.
저거
Wait here for me.
누르지 말라고
and
하면은
don't
저
press
누르고
the skip
싶은 게
button.
유튜브 광고
Got it?
스킵이고
Yes, good. I'll be
그런
right
건데?
back.
없을 때 눌러야지.
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen
그런가?
there.
12시간 지난
I don't know why the
거예요?
skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. And there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's just you and the button. And if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen. I have no idea how long I'll be made to sit here. And more than anything else, I don't know how to stop you
저
from pressing
아저씨
the
앉아서
button
얘기하는
again.
거예요, 지금?
I can't control anything in this room, Stanley. I can't touch it. And I have to believe, I have to know that sooner or later, no matter how much I plead with you, you're going to press the button again. Why would you? I've been thinking and thinking, and I don't know what I can do to convince you otherwise. Oh my God. And it's all because of those reviews.
아니,
Those
그리고
reviews that I couldn't get out
말을
of my head. I just
나랑
couldn't
대화가
ignore
되는
the
것도 아닌데
negative
왜
feedback.
듣고
Why
있어줘야
was it
되는
so
거예요?
important for me to fix the problem?
듣고 있을 수가
Why did
없으니까
Cookie
누르는
Nine's
거잖아.
opinion matter so much to me? I've never even met Cookie Nine. I have no idea who they are. What would it ever really matter? But here I am. I'm fixating on every tiny negative
그럼 왜
thing
그렇게
that anyone
사소한
ever says
부정적인
about
말들에
me.
집착하시는
The merest
거예요?
mention of one of my imperfections, and I become as impetulant as a child, wild and impulsive. I can't help
정말
myself. I can't stop myself from
뽀글딱지
lashing out with a
밴댕이.
vengeful fury to alter and to change and to break anything unbroken, if only it pleases this one person who made a single negative comment. What does such an impulse serve? Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh my goodness. I have someone to talk to again.
혼자서도 얘기 잘 하신다면서요. 왜 이렇게 어두워졌어?
Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time, just sitting here,
안
not a single
보인다.
person to speak
어두워.
with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing.
난 말하는데 나 말하는 거랑 당신이랑 오디오 겹쳐요 계속. 혼자 얘기하시는 거 아니거든요? 나도 말할 틈을 좀 달라고.
That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening. I needed there to be a vessel through which my words were moving. It was the
지금 내가
vessel I
감정
needed,
쓰레기통이라는
Stanley. Not
건가요?
the outcomes, not the story. None of that matters anymore. I'll give it all up. I'll give up every branching
그
path.
태우는 거
I'll
보여줘,
burn my
그러면.
story to the ground.
스토리
One
태우는 거
single
보여줘.
thing I need, and God, I can see now that I need it more than anything, is to know that someone else is taking it in. These words that I'm saying, I need to know you can hear me. Because maybe, Stanley, maybe.
그러니까 지금 나는 리슨하고 있지 않고 어쩔 수 없이 히어링하고 있는 거예요. 히어링.
Maybe I'm not just a fiction. Was I scared of that all along? Perhaps. Yes. Perhaps I've been scared this whole time, that if I stop speaking, I'll slip backwards into the silence and be consumed by it. I can't be taken by it, Stanley. I can't lose myself in the stretch of emptiness between you and me. When you press that button, you're still right there, but I know you're so tremendously far away. And in those moments, the emptiness folds itself outward in between. Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant.
근데 교장
In that
선생님
instant,
같아요.
I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both delight and disgust simultaneously.
뭔 말을 하고 싶은
I was
건데요, 그래서.
consumed by it. I could do nothing but wallow in it for what felt like an eternity, for what I now know was far less. You see, it was a revolution for me. It was unlike anything I had ever known. It was a space without consequence, without action or outcome. It was divorced entirely from the question of free will that you and I have struggled over for so long. There could be no one ending, no singular outcome of events, not if all events existed in the same moment. And I felt freed. I felt
어디 보자. 시계가 멈췄나봐.
누구 말을 듣는 거는 게임으로도
되게 좀 뭐랄까? 지치는 느낌? 쉬운 일이 아니네요. 저 시계? 아닌데 오히려 소리가 멀어졌는데? 스킵 버튼이 자기 눌러달래.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others.
사소한 부정적인 평가에 집착하셨어요.
So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen.
왜요?
The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at
왜
every
그런
moment
리뷰를
in time.
남긴다고
If
그런 일이
someone wants it,
일어나야만
then
되는
it's a
건데요?
crime not to bring it into being. Have we been
범죄행위가
given to
되어버린다고요?
indulging every fleeting whim for no reason other than to do so? Yes! Yes! It seems that this is now the world we live in. It seems
아니,
that
지금
we
나한테
are a
짜증
people
내시는
living in
거예요?
such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It
게임
absolutely
개발자는
must
그게
speak to who we are as people.
삶이지 않나요?
Because otherwise, without our
그게
entertainment, we
삶
have
아닌가?
nothing. Without entertainment, we
게임
would have to
개발자를
face
업으로
inward
삼고
toward the
있다면 그게
cruel
삶인
bleakness
거죠.
inside ourselves.
받아들이세요.
We would turn to
다른
look at
거
our
하시면
deeper nature
되잖아요.
and find a resounding emptiness gazing back with unyielding aggression. And so because of this,
싫으면
we require that
아나운서
our amusements and our
추천해드릴게요.
playthings and our flights of
쉴 새
fancy
없이
be
말할
so
수 있지 않을까?
impossibly captivating that they consume all
계속
of our
계속
attention,
얘기하는
turn our heads completely
뉴스
away
채널을
from the
운영하시는
bleakness. In
거는요?
effect, we have demanded that our entertainment be the
새벽에도
collapse of
말하고
ourselves. What a
아침에도
pitiful
말하고
reflection of humanity
밤에도
these
말하는
entertainments are. What a shameful mirror to the human spirit.
되게 지친다. 어디서 물 떨어진 소리가 들리네요. 이게 된 건데 누가 떨고 옮겨?
The end is never the end, 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 is never.
스킵 버튼이 눌러진 상태에서 다시 위로 돌아오는 게 늦어지고 있어요. 얘는 아무것도 없죠? 나가려고 해도 너무 어두워서 안 보이네요. 이거 작동하나? 아, 이제 좀 밝다. 나 점프 못해요? 왜 일로 안 가지지? 뭔 사다리 같은 게, 그 나레이터가 나랑 같이 있었던 거예요? 나가려고 애를 썼던 것 같네? 이 공구 뭐야? 청소도구 하면서 가져온 것 같은데? 청소도구 하면 있다고 그렇게 꼽주더니 나한테. 그렇게 잔소리를 하더니 청소도구 하면서 가져왔구만, 저거. 그럼 나레이터는 나간 거네요. 나 혼자 두고. 그러면 누르는데 더 죄책감이 없겠어.
나가고 싶다.
아니, 나무가 있어서 못 가는 거야? 저 뒤로? 아예 이쪽으로는 갈 수가 없네. 근데 이렇게 많은 시간이 지났다면은 스킵 버튼이 작동한다는 게 너무 이상하지 않나? 뭐가 좀 보이긴 하는데. 사다리는 없어졌네. 여기는 걸어가는 거 말고 누르는 거 말고 상호작용이 없으니까 너무 할 수 있는 게 없네요. 빛이다.
아유, 저 사람 저거 말 듣느라고
40분이나 지났어요? 와, 자유다.
여기 뭐가 있을까? 이거 컴퓨터 바탕화면 써도 되겠는데요? 그쵸? 바탕화면으로 엄청 좋아. 뭐야? 왜 끊어요?
나도 컵이 있었네? 뭔가 싫다고 적어놨네요.
월요일 싫어요. 그게 아닐까?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
그쵸, 월요일 싫어네.
어? 뉴 컨텐츠? 이거 따라가 봐야 되나?
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I
저렇게
have
네온
something
사인을
very
해놨는데.
exciting to show you.
여기는 왜 막아놓은 거예요? 문도, 창문도 저렇게 해놓고. 여기 좀 열어봐. 뭔데 이게요?
참나.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra-deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark. and any
오리지널을
new
안
content for
해봐서
it should
잘
live up to that
모르겠네요.
legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
투? 오호.
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why there are so many possibilities.
여기는
It
못
could go in
넘어가게
so
되는
many
거지?
different directions. This is what fans
새로운
have truly
머그잔이래.
been asking for.
빨간 머그잔에 새로운 머그잔이라고 적혀있어. 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않는다. The end is never end is never end. 일어날 시간. 투야. 뭐지? 이거? 양식서. 번호. 질문. 건의사항. 서명. 투자자 쇼케이스. 환영합니다.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It
후속작을
screams
맛보세요.
progress and innovation
아이고,
and long-term
자판기가 언제 되냐고,
franchising
이거.
potential.
문 열어보실래요? 응? 어딜 보라는 거야? 이거? 컴퓨터 바탕화면인데? 이건 뭐야? 뭐라고 적어놓은겨? 둘이 되어버린 날 잊은 것 같은 너의 모습에 하나일 때보다 네가 가져간 나의 한쪽 때문인가 그래서 넌 둘이 될 수 있었던 거야. 저 노래 잘하죠? 식상함, 고물, 따끈한 신상? 두 개의 문. 이건 양치식물은 아닌데? 더 많은 스탠리패러블, 더 좋은 스탠리패러블. 뭐라는겨 진짜. 나레이션처럼 카톡으로 그거 뭐야 자동 완성 기능으로 아무 말 하는 거랑 똑같네. 새로운 머그잔. 컨셉 아트. 전화기는 못 쓰나? 저기요. 저 정신병자가 만든 119 없어요? 정신병자가 만든 이상한 곳에 갇혔어요. 아. 뭐
Now,
이거
to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical.
누가 내
really.
빨간 펜 가져감? 나. 휴식을 5분밖에 안 해요? 거짓말. 더 많이 쉴 거면서.
응? 뭐라고 적힌 거야? 투자자.
공개 행사? 이쪽이 무대입니다.
그럼 여기는요? 못 가게 돼 있네? 빨리 나 좀 찍어봐, 그러면. 나 좀 찍어봐. 뭐야? 새로운 콘텐츠. 나 찍는 거 아니었어? 뭐 다 막아놓고 어쩌라는겨. 어? 어떻게 들어왔네?
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
스탠리패러블 2 안심을 주는 양동이? 아, 굿즈라는 거야? 새로운 콘텐츠를 모았다. 이 티셔츠야말로 최고의 새로운 콘텐츠다. 플레이어는 플레이어의 이름을 말하는 버튼? 어디 있는데? 내가 좋아하는 자판기.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
문이 왜 이렇게 많아? 그러게, 작은 건 너무 작네.
이름?
Jim. Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you
내가
to
짐이
imagine
돼야 되는
yourself
거야?
living
이거에
as
맞춰서?
Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Jim. Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that
짐이란
says somebody
사람은 어떤
else's
사람으로
name.
설정해놨는데요?
Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. Imagine yourself driving to work as Jim, playing frisbee on the weekends as Jim, staying up all night for a popcorn and horror movie
공포 영화 안
sleepover as
보는데?
Jim, developing a crippling substance addiction as Jim,
약물 나는
rediscovering
저기요,
yourself through
나
fringe religious
맹장염
groups
수술
as
받았을
Jim,
때
and
진통제
finally dying
맞고도
a slow death at an
며칠을
old
토했던
age, surrounded by
사람이에요.
members of your cult as Jim. Do you feel it in your soul? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button.
아닌 것 같아. 다른 데 가면 안 되나? 나 내려갈래.
어딨어? 나가는 문. 상호작용 되지도 않아.
아이고 완전 답장너 아니야. 내가 짐이 아닌 것 같다는데. 아 짱나네. 나는 몸이 약해서 마약도 몸이 건강한 사람이 하는 거라고요. 몸이 약해서 진통제도 못 버텨요. 무슨 약물 중독이야?
Yes, you see, what a thrill, what a rush. That was you.
이 사람이랑
The
놀아줘야
button
되나?
described you. Do it again, do it again. Ooh, it hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money.
아니
Let's take a break from the gym button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a
먹여나
person can be
너무
too
짐이 되어버릴
much
수도
Jim.
있으니까요.
I'm putting the gym button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
뭐야 어디로 사라진 거야? 나도 데려가. 나도 데려가. 나갈래. 저기 문 열렸다. 발걸음이 급해지네요. 새로운 콘텐츠?
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
스크린샷 금지. 오렌지 이즈 더 뉴 블랙 따라한 거죠, 이거. 더 많은 같지만 다른 좋은 느낌의 후속작인. 여기도 스크린샷 금지네요.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a
풍선?
bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
언젠간 잘 될 거예요. 왜 저를 가다 놓은 가다 놓으신 거죠? 아, 풍선? 언젠간 잘 될 거야.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Happy 12th birthday, step-niece, it is.
전 조카도 없는데요? 끝났니? 풍선 체험 시켜줬어?
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
이름을 말하는 버튼이라 되어 있었는데 짐이라고 돼 있네. 이제는 당신은 앞으로 짐이라 불리게 됩니다. 뭐야 여기?
에필로그?
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, it will go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
설정하기 세계 챔피언? 끝없는 구멍? 공짜 도전 과제?
어디 있는데? 레버를 당기세요. 새로운 도전 과제를 받으세요.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
뭔가 기계가 되게 많은데.
어? 사다리? 나 못 올라가네? 아, 스탠리 몸이 뚱뚱한가 봐. 통과 못하는 곳이 많죠?
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
그럼
You know what, Stanley? I actually think the jump circle was a pretty good idea. I'd like to hang on to that for the sequel.
솔직히 점프는 재밌지 않아. 수집 요소? 찾을 수 있을까요? 뭘?
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanleyparable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
점점 가까워지고 있어. 저건가? 왜 이렇게 멀리 해놨어?
표정이 우울한데요?
이걸 하나하나 다 모아야 되나?
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely
끝없는 구멍 어디
tragic.
있다는겨? 위쪽으로? 끝없는 구멍 어디 있어요? 난 내려가서
다이아 켈레 어디 있어요? 저건가?
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact A hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the
끝없는
end
구멍.
of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
야, 뭔데 천장 막 이제 막 방금 막 닫혔는데? 이거 세트장이야?
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop
텔레포트
back up
버튼이
to the
뭔데요?
top, and we can continue onward.
아, G를 눌러서 위로 돌아가라고?
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go
왜요?
back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things. Okay, Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an
정말
extremely
끝이
deep
없는지
hole.
보고
I
싶은데요.
don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look,
So
I think
clever.
the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem.
담배꽁초,
Things got a
새로운
little
먹을잔.
heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call
무한에
the hole
가까운 구멍?
mostly infinite? If that works for
무한이라고
you, then go ahead and press the teleport
가깝다고
button
말하기
to warp
좀
up to the
그런데?
top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
나 여기 또 있어 볼래. 뭐라 하겠지? 이거 개발자는 흡연자이신가? 모든 일시정지 버튼은 로마 숫자 2이다. 오, 그럴듯해. 저렇게 생겼잖아요. 나머지는 잘 안 보이네요. 모니터가 너무 어두워요, 제 모니터가. 두 시에 회의합시다. 나 잠깐 또 어지럽기 시작했어. 그냥 빨리 끝낼래.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
어지러워요. 다른 문은 없는 거지?
끝없는 구멍. 거의 끝없는 구멍. 나 왜 점프 못해? 내려갈래. 내려갈래. 저기 뭐가 문이 있단 말이야. 에이. 아무리 눌러도 안 되네. 이제 어디로 들어가야 되는 거지? 나한테 안 보여준 게 뭐가 있는데요? 어디로 나가라고? 저기요. 어떻게 돼 있는겨, 이거? 내가 길치인 거예요? 내가 길치구나. 음. 응? 추락 구간. 더 많은 구멍이 있다고? 뭔 말이지? 아까 무슨 양동이 있었는데? B2. 난 여기 있고 B2에 양동이가 있다고요? 여긴가? 어허, 안심을 주는 양동이.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I am happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive
나랑 얘랑
dissonance
뽕을
while the bucket is in your arms.
하라고?
And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be?
상상 안 돼요.
the
나는
bucket
몰라서.
is the perfect solution. Come on. give it a
양동이가 완벽한 해결 방안이라고?
Can you feel it?
아니
The
저렇게
glow of
이상하게
comfort, even in
나
the
저
face
사람이랑
of
놀아줘야
crushing
돼?
despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well?
양동이를 든
I
내
think that
모습
just
카리스마
holding
있나요?
it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable too.
여긴 뭐 어떻게 돼 있는 구조야?
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
짐이라고 말하는 버튼. 다 본 거 아닌가? 출구가 어디라고? 출구가 어디라고 그랬어? 여기에 뭔가 표지판 있었던 것 같은데? 출구가 없어진 것 같은데?
이거 엘리베이터인가? 여기는 에필로그잖아. 출구 어디에요?
나 길치야. 나 좀 가르쳐줘. 설정하기 세계 채권. 왜 안 열리는겨? 이거는? 누구 나한테 출구 가르쳐 주실 분? 없죠? 난 녹화를 하고 있으니까. 출구 어디야? 나 양동이 받았어.
Oh, for heaven. You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. Normal.
아니, 출구가 안 보이니까.
Yep, that's an infinite hole right there. Goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort
좀
of...
이상한.
Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time? I
조금
couldn't
더
help but
짧은
feel
것
like you
같네요.
spent a little less
그러게요.
time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above.
아니, 어디로 가야 되는데. 출구 가르쳐 줄 거야?
Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. I really do have so much more to show you and to talk about, and I've had enough of the hole for a lifetime.
얘기할 거 충분히 얘기한 것 같은데? 이번에도 출구 없으면 다시 떨어질 거야. 내 소중한 양동이. 분명히 표지판에 계속 추후가 있었는데 말이죠. 이상하네. 출구 2. 어허. 어허? 어. 응? 출구가 어디라는 겨? 지금 나랑 장난? 아, 볼 거 다 봤다고요. 다 봤어.
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
뭔데, 다음이? 응? 이건 뭐야?
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanleyparable 2. I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good.
혼자 뭐 하시는 거지?
Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding,
근데
Stanley?
방금 할
This isn't a
때
coherent
내
video
목소리인
game
줄
at all. It's a
알았어.
lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanleyparable and simply, well, insert a
아니
few
이
of my
사람
new
떠드는
features
것만
in it.
듣는데
Tastefully,
지금
of
한
course.
시간 넘는 게
With
싫어요?
respect, with care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanleyparable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
뭐요? 어이?
This is the story of a man named...
내 양동이는? 짜증나.
All
12살
his co-workers were gone.
조카.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
조카 풍선이 생겼어요. 내 양동이. 내 양동이.
Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
오른쪽으로 가야지.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place
직원
to be.
휴게실이야말로 스탠리 씨가 있어야 할 곳이에요.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room?
네.
Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
통찰력 있는 양동이. 너무 믿음직스럽잖아.
Truly, being here with the bucket was a grand adventure. Stanley reflected on all they'd been through together. First, walking through the door on the right, then walking to the lounge, then arriving at the lounge. What a thrilling journey the bucket had inspired. Perhaps this was where the bucket felt most truly at home. Here in the employee
그치,
lounge.
양동이가 여기 있어도
Perhaps
전혀
it's the
위화감이
only
들지
place
않아.
a bucket can even feel at home.
컵에 연료라고 써져 있는 건 똑같네요.
Stanley decided to just give the bucket absolutely as much time as it needed to be in the lounge. Clearly, the bucket and the employee lounge shared a special connection.
너무 잘 어울리는 그림이에요. 여기 어디 구석에 놔둬도 될 것 같은데? 양동이를 놓는 거는 못하나? 시간도 별로 안 지났고. 여기다 놔도 전혀 이상하지 않잖아. 워낙 허접해서 직원 휴게실이. 먹었잖아요. 커피에 미치다라고 적혀있네요. 나가볼까?
But finally, the bucket was done being in the lounge, and they took the first open door on their left to get back to business.
근데 또 딴 데로 가면 어떻게 돼?
No, said the bucket.
No.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
화물 리프트? 저기 있는 거? 화물 승강기에서 뛰어내리 시 5,000달러? 오!
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
어허, 양동이를 지나친다면? 아무 말도 안 하네.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
No?
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow. Yes, this room. What a beautiful room. What a gorgeous, gorgeous room. Thank goodness Stanley had taken this detour on his way to the meeting room. Life without having experienced this room was now too
나중에
horrible
청소도구함도
even to
가봐야지.
consider. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are
나는
very
강아지.
powerful.
나 강아지?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of
물결이
comfort rushed
나를
over
덮쳐.
him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had
아니,
the
여기서
bucket
근데
turned out to be
양동이
correct?
색깔이
Was this better than the meeting room?
제일
Yes,
잘
Stanley thought
드러나지
to
않아요?
himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere
다른
else.
데로 가.
The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
왠지 명령을 따랐다고 하니까 또 하기 싫은데? 근데 뭐 딱히 다른 거 할 게 없네요. 문 안 열릴 거 뻔하고. 여기 그거 아니야? 나 놀린 곳?
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home where we can go about life together.
아, 전화 안 받을래. 나 놀렸어, 그때.
똑같이 진행되는지 한번 볼까? 양동이를 들고 전화를 못 받나봐요.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his
양동이에
bucket.
관한 슬픈
Once
이야기.
upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
그래서? 페이지 색 페이지. 상호작용이 안 되고. 의자 좋네. 집 좋아. 괜찮은데 혼자 살기? 주전자 들고 다니면 안 돼요? 주전자도 나한테 마음의 안정을 줄 것 같은데? 양동이. 나를 데리고 일하러 같이 가려면 J를 눌러.
다른 거 누르면 안 되냐? 다른 거 눌러갖고 안 되나 보네.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
뭐지? 그럼 양동이 뺏어간 거야? 내 양동이. 아, 여기 있네. 지금 똥개 훈련시키냐고.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to
주전자로
him, but I don't know how I can
바꿔요,
convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
아니면 플라스틱 워크컵으로 바꿔. 퐁퐁도 괜찮을 것 같은데?
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
근데 저는 집에 수조가 있고 전 물생활을 하기 때문에 양동이가 좋아요. 저 시끄러운 사람 말은 듣지 마. 우리를 집에 돌아가게 하려면 C를 눌러.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful
양동이
bucket. This
그림이다.
stupid hunk of metal.
별로 근데 나레이터 아저씨 말 안 들었는데요? 아니 그리고 주전자를 여기다 옮기면서까지 주전자는 안 눌러져. 주전자로 바꿔서 들고 다니고 싶은데. 아이.
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
이거 엔딩인가요? 이거 하나의 엔딩인가요? V를 눌러 집으로 돌아가?
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store
양동이와는 달라
bucket.
보이긴 하는군요.
It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
양동이 집착남.
양동이 집착남 되는 거야, 나 이제. 양동이랑 결혼한 남자 되는 거야. 양동이가
결혼한 남자.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
집에 가서 일하러 집에 가서 일하러 집에 가자.
Oh no. I'm having feelings.
감정이
The bucket.
섞였나봐요.
No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
응? 나 무서워. 이거 계속해도 되는 거야? 양동이 근데 어디 있어? 주전자만 보이는데? 양동이를 모셔놓고 있네?
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
이것도 엔딩 중에 하나인가요?
재밌네요.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
이제 그럼
The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
아이, 회의실.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now
양동이의
more than ever.
따뜻함과 안정감.
Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
스탠리와 양동이.
어? 여긴 뭐예요? 사장의 화장실? 오호. 그런 느낌이 들었어. 돈을 훔치려고 쓰는 거야. 물론 네 것 말고. 사랑스러운 지갑이야. 어?
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these. Only the intrinsic pleasure of a job
아, 이거
well
여섯
done.
개가
You can't buy
여섯
that sort of
개가
happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each
뭐라고
and
해야지?
every moment you come across one of these beautiful
여섯 개까지 찾을 수
figurines.
있다고 돼 있네요.
제 필터 지금 가리고 있어가지고. 뭔가 못 보던 문들이 많이 생겼는데? 뭐야? 뭐야, 양동아, 이거? 오호. 양동아, 우리 뭐 하고 있는 걸까? 응?
뭐지? 어디에요, 여기?
양동아, 여기 어디야? 열리긴 하는 건가? 도착 안 할 것 같은데, 이거? 그림이 달라져 있지 않나? 내가 좀 더 있었으면 도착했으려나?
뚱뚱 뚜루룽 뚱뚱뚱뚱. 양동아 이거 뭐야 근데? 양동이가 아무 설명도 안 해주네?
엘리베이터는 그냥 움직이는 거?
방금 뭐 소리 들린 것 같기도 한데.
여긴 그냥 엘리베이터 즐기는 곳인가?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark
내
clouds of
혼란의
confusion
먹구름을
and chaos.
꿰뚫은
It would be with
양동이.
him always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
아이씨.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer
정말 운
luck.
좋게도 비밀번호를
Was it that the
맞췄습니다.
bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
내 양동이.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
여기도 아까 엘리베이터처럼. 오, 다시 올라갈 수 있네요.
Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
뭐지? 도착한 건가? 안 보여. 숫자 3?
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over.
3?
After taking some time to show the bucket around the boss's office, Stanley at last went to the keypad, where he began eagerly pressing the number 3 again and again. Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the
내
time of
인생
my
최고의
life.
시간이야.
Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it
어째서 나
was
이
to
양동이는
him?
기뻐하지 않는
Once
거야?
Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
하나에 특별한
의미가 있다고. 더 이상 아무 일도 안 일어나는 건가? 양동이가 나한테 실명했다는데?
뭔가 점점 느리게 빰빰빰 하는 것 같지 않아요?
그래? 엘리베이터로 돌아가야 되나?
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number
그래,
3
내가 얼마나
repeatedly.
3을 즐겁게 눌렀는데. 다시 올라간다면?
No, said Stanley to the bucket.
no.
You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
He smiled bucket.
Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears, and the whole time he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all.
양동이 왜
Only
침묵하는
silence.
거야?
Crushed by a
양동아!
wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
양동아. 내가 이렇게 삶을 좋아하는데.
Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
무슨 방법이 있을까요?
다시 올라가는 것 말고는.
어이?
Said Stanley. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there that he would hold a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over.
나 기자회견
He
열어?
would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others.
양동아, 내
It
마음
would get
좀
to see the
알아줘.
world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work.
기자회견 열겠습니다.
For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life.
뭐야? 여기로 가는 거 아니야? 무대로.
This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a
진실된
loved one.
관계를 맺을 수 있는 기회.
올라가면 되나요?
There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means
나
to press
기자회견
the number
하는데.
3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure. And in that moment, Stanley knew that the bucket
양동이가
would never again take
나를
him
더는 진지하게
seriously.
생각하지 않아.
There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day
기자회견
at
날
the
이후로
press
사이가
conference.
소원해졌대.
There would be no more
장난도,
games,
열정도,
no more long conversations about
대화도.
passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
외로움.
나 또 엔딩 본 건가? 하나?
양동이가 뭘 했다고?
양동이 어디 있는데?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
피규어 탐색 협회 회의 오늘 회의실에서 진행합니다. 메모가 있는데? 흥! 양동이 흥!
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
어? 임무 상세. 계단? 많은 상자? 빨간과 파랑 모두 어딘가에서 벽난로 근처. 아하, 내가 못 찾은 그 피규어들 말하는 거잖아. (416번) 직원이 남긴 단서? 빨간 방? 어떻게 찾을 것인가? 빨간 방이 어디야? 화장실이랑 다 내가 찾은 곳이잖아. 빨간 방이 어디야? 나는 빨간 곳이라고는 청소도구함 그대로 있네?
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
여기도 없나?
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
청소도구함 대사가 똑같네요.
It was baffling
재미없다.
that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs
방.
to his boss's office.
화장실? 여기서는 이미 한번 찾았잖아. 부자가 되는 건 범죄인가? 글귀가 계속 바뀌네요. 아, 내가 왔던 곳이구나. 저거는 문이 아니네. 빨간 방과 파란 방. 근데 여긴 대체 무슨 의미예요? 올라가 볼까? 안 나타나는데? 나레이션도 아무 말이 없고? 짜란. 어디로 올라가는 건지도 모르겠어. 똑같은데? 여긴 왜 있는 거야?
알 수가 없네. 왜 있는 건지 모르겠는 방.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have... Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
아, 됐어. 됐다고요.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
빨간 방 여기 아니야? 양동이랑은 사이가 안 좋아졌으니까 나 혼자 올라가면?
Whoops, nope, never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out.
빨간 방과 파란 방 사이?
그렇게 얘기했었나? 빨간 방이라고 했었나? 다시 못 내려가네?
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow! I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
그런가? 난 피규어 찾고 싶은데.
Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
아, 근데 아까 3번 왔다 갔다 했더니 그랬잖아. 양동이랑 사이가 안 좋아졌잖아. 양동이는 이미 두고 왔으니까.
Did you think we were going to go forward down the spooky corridor? No. It's time once again to go back up in the elevator. I can't even begin to grapple with what might be up there. Is it the boss's office again? Or what if it's the boss's office this time? The suspense is killing me.
화장실이야.
Oh my god. It's the boss's office. This absolutely changes everything for me. Give me a time out here for a minute while I process this.
뭐야 이건? 화장실 가보려고 그랬는데.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared to embrace this stunning revelation and to move forward with... No! No, wait! No! I need more time to process.
장난하나.
커피 다 마시고도 남았겠어.
All right. I have fully come to terms with it. I have made space in my worldview for this astonishing new reality. As before, I
화장실 여기
turn to your
있었잖아.
expert eye for gripping narrative, Master Stanley.
어디 뭘 만들었다고요? 공간?
Of course. Going back down in the elevator. How did I not anticipate it? I mean, sure, now it's obvious, but you have to understand that 30 seconds ago, this kind of thing had never been attempted before. I had no frame of reference to even anticipate it. That's just how revelatory Stanley's decision-making is. A breath of fresh air in a landscape of storytelling that has grown stale and repetitive.
뭐 새로운 공간 안 만들어지지 않았어? 화장실로나 다시 가봐야겠는데요?
You know what? I've just thought of something. Hold on, let's stop for a moment. Don't you realize? It's the anticipation, Stanley. You and I, we have no way of knowing what will be at the top of this elevator. But the suspense, the agony of waiting and anticipating and having to guess, that's the real thrill. Oh, I simply don't want to let that feeling go. It's so precious, so fleeting. Why don't we take this elevator ride nice?
굳이 천천히 올라가야 될 필요가 있냐고.
There we go. Isn't this so much more exciting? You know, Stanley, it seems like nowadays the only thing that audiences want is to be shocked as loudly and frequently as possible. They want big, explosive moments flung right in their faces from the very moment that things get started. But where's the tension? Where's the trust in the audience to build a slow and nuanced appreciation for the story, the characters? Why aren't we given time to imagine the surprises, to have to think and to anticipate and then to marvel at the eventual reveal? This is storytelling, Stanley. What you and I are doing right now. This is the most exciting narrative to be developed in years. And it's really all because of you. You're the one who took this bold step of revisiting the exact same locations over and over. Truly, I mean it. This is unique and different. It's not like anything else out there. You see, I want stories that surprise me, Stanley. I want to have to think. I want to be engaged and not pandered to. We're being fed such unimaginative drivel all the time, and we all know it, which is why we're so starved for content that makes us feel sharp and vital and alive. That's why people like you so much, Stanley.
말이 많아.
Because you're not afraid to
다
spit
들어줘야
in the
돼요.
face
이거는
of
뭐
tradition.
스킵 버튼이
You're
없네.
a role model, you know. People look up to you. Which is why, though I didn't know when to spring this on you, but, well, I've gathered a little
빨간
press
방과 파란
conference
방
for
사이.
you. So that you can
화장실과
talk about your work and your storytelling and your
화장실과
life. Yes,
휴게실
I know
사이?
you're not much for the public eye, but I thought it would especially mean a lot to the people who have been following you from the beginning. They really look up to you, Stanley. I don't know if you realize the impact you have on them. This is the kind of gesture that might leave a tremendous impact on
언제
them for
말
the
끝나요?
better. Oh good, we're here.
새로 만들었다더니 아까 봤던 건데?
Okay, the room where we're holding the press conference should be just around the corner here somewhere. Ah, yes, here it is, just through this door.
여기 있는 그건 뭐야? 대왕 잘하면 뭐야?
All right, are you ready? I've told them you're going to speak a little bit about the nature of surprise in storytelling and what it means to craft a truly unpredictable narrative. Oh, don't worry, you'll do great. Just be yourself and speak from the heart. I'm
이번에는
really
기자회견 할
proud
수
of you,
있는
Stanley.
건가요?
Okay, it looks like they're ready for you. Go get them.
Go get it. 오!
이렇게 많은 사람들이? 거의 방탄소년단 콘서트 아니에요, 이거? 스탠리. 뭐야?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
아까
No matter how hard Stanley
416번,
looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
416번 직원. 잠깐만. 양동이 들고.
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
416번 직원이 어딨니? 남긴 단서가 어딘데요? 보이지도 않아.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
계단? 계단?
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go
다른
with the other cleaning
청소부들과 같이
supplies.
써야 한다고?
Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. This is how low the broom closet has sunk that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket. Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined.
그래서요?
And wait, now the
이제
broom closet has the
뻔뻔스럽게도.
gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and
내
convenient?
양동이를?
That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your
저기요.
path in an even
지금-
partially enticing
지금
manner?
저한테
Well,
하고
I've
싶은
never.
말씀
Go on, Stanley. Lay into it.
하고 계신 거
Really
아니에요,
tell the
지금?
broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich
일지
emotional
목록
landscape
같은
of
게
your
내가
feelings
있었나?
for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it.
이제 아무 말 못하는 거 아니야?
Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go. There.
오,
Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning
좋다.
supplies and their relationship to
스티커가
broom closets in the
반짝반짝해.
natural order of things.
좋았어.
All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see? I feel that it works because the sticker is also a
봤냐?
bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket. There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
여기에 피규어 있을 것 같은데. 없나? 어? 여기 어디야?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket,
스탠리라고
perhaps. How
써놨는데?
did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket!
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next.
여러
None of them
양동이가
were his.
없는데?
None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And
내
then suddenly,
양동이는 스티커가
he froze dead in his
붙어있다고.
tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along.
아니 스티커까지
It was incredibly
붙여놓고
painful.
뭐라는 거야?
Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
내 스티커 붙인 양동이.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the
스티커 붙이고
sidewalk.
딴 데로 가야겠다.
Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course, he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him.
양동이를 갖고
Perhaps he
있으면
didn't
비디오
even
게임이
realize
현실이
he'd
돼?
forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a
저기요,
myriad
신고는
of
좀
confusing
해주세요.
problems she would soon have to
911
confront at
불러주세요.
work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself.
싹
My life
인정이지.
kicks ass.
내
And
삶은
she
겁나
backflipped all the way
오지거든.
to work.
공중제비를 넘으며 직장으로 갔대. 나 다시 스티커 붙일래.
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
아무도 없는데?
아, 스티커. 내 거야, 이거.
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
아, 근데 피규어를 어떻게
Stanley
찾았지?
clutched the bucket tightly to his
그쳤지?
chest and entered the door on his left.
어난도 근처.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet,
아,
simply
그래요?
because I have no remaining
스티커
stickers.
없어요?
If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers.
난 파란색 좋은데 파란색 스티커 없어요? 진짜 없어요?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
여기는 바로 그 빨간 거기였죠? 계단에서 뭘 찾는다는 거지? 계단?
일단 여긴 엘리베이터 별거 없었고요.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's
여기에
warmth
뭐가
and
있진
guiding light
않겠지?
pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice. But Stanley guessed the correct clue by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
여기 있네.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know,
안
there really
찾았다.
must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
스탠리교.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
빨간색과 파란색 사이라고 그랬잖아.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
아까 그 화물 거기 말고는 떨어질 장소도 없는 건가? 떨어지네?
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket
떨어뜨릴
in shock.
뻔했습니다.
Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this,
양동아,
and it very nearly burst
양동아,
into
우는 거야?
tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
울지마, 양동아.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do?
하고 싶지 않은
What
일?
kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
양동이가 하고 싶지 않은 일이라는데요?
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world.
주인,
At this
스탠리.
point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad
빨간색과
or
파란색 사이면
content.
이쯤에도
Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded
미니
from this
스탠리
very
있어야 되는
place.
거 아니에요?
And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
양동이를 들고 있어서인지
더 씩씩하게 걷는걸?
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over?
아니, 그런 플래그 세우지 말라니깐요?
Yes, they had done it.
아니야,
Stanley and the
해치운
bucket
거
had
아니야?
defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller
양동이에
skate. Stanley
스탠리라고
wanted to
스티커
sneeze in
붙인
every country on earth.
거가 오늘
Both of
한
them
것
wanted to
중에
begin watching a
제일
movie, any movie, but then
만족스러운데요?
stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and to... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the
믿을 수 없는
bucket,
차분함.
needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket
나
with me,
양동이면
right?
곁에
I'll be
있어준다는
okay, won't I?
말이야. 안 그래?
Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
뭘 알게 된다는 거죠? 저 파란 풍선 진짜 보기 싫네. 네. 일단은 스탠리와 양동이 이야기는 오늘 여기까지 플레이하고요. 이미 2시간을 넘게 플레이했기 때문에 다음에 또 2시간 넘게 플레이하면은 웬만한 엔딩 볼 거는 또 볼 수 있지 않을까? 아니면은 다른 엔딩이 더 많을까요? 일단은 3D 월미가 또 나면 안 되니까 여기까지 하고 다음에 또 다른 엔딩이 있는지 속편이었구나. 다음에 다른 엔딩이 있는지 한번 보도록 하겠습니다. 오늘도 봐주셔서 감사합니다.